Oh my god, that's a roar. If anything, what we see in the trailers and the movie, that's basically me every time I yawn in public.
あれはゴジラ?
What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video part 8. I am so excited because for this video we're going to be talking about a film that I have been dying to watch, Godzilla Minus One. So for those of you who are new to the channel, when it comes to horror films, I am a huge fan of monster movies, more specifically Godzilla. And over the years, I've done several Godzilla videos. I've taken a look at the MonsterVerse with Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong. And I've also taken a look at some of TOHO's notable films like the original 1954 Godzilla and the recent 2016 Shin Godzilla. So you could say that I am a huge Godzilla fan. Why? Because I love seeing this giant reptilian monster just wreak havoc on the city. So you can believe me when I tell you this. This is the greatest Godzilla movie of all time. Now those may be some fighting words, but I gotta tell you, I have not enjoyed a Godzilla film this much since I watched the original 1954 film. Because when it comes to these giant monster movies, there are two things I'm usually looking for. One, I hope the monster aspect of the story is really freaking cool. And two, I'm also looking for an interesting human story as well. And when you look at Godzilla Minus One, this movie is firing off on all cylinders because not only are you getting the most ferocious Godzilla we've ever seen on screen, but you're also getting this beautiful story about post-war trauma. So with that being said, let's talk about why I think this is the greatest Godzilla movie of all time. And to start things off, let's talk about the obvious reason on why this movie is so good, and that's Godzilla, who is a beast in this film. Now, I think the most important reason on why this version of Godzilla is so freaking cool is because you can actually see this creature in all of his glory. Not to criticize Warner Brothers and their MonsterVerse films, but when you watch those movies, most of the fights are usually taking place in the middle of the night, and heaven forbid it's taking place during a blizzard or a storm to where you really can't see anything at all. And even when you do see the monsters up close, it's usually shot from the human's perspective just to show you how giant these titans really are. And once the fight is starting to get good, it cuts away to the humans at the wrong moment. However, when you watch Minus One, most of the Godzilla scenes are incredible because not only are they shot during the day, but the way the camera centers the image, you get a full view of this monster as he wrecks the country of Japan. Now, I have looked at some of the negative critiques on this film, and some people are complaining that Godzilla is not in this movie as much as they wanted to. In fact, the movie clocks in at over 2 hours, and they've calculated the time that he's been on screen, which adds up to, I think, an average of, 10 minutes. But even so, when he's not on screen, you can feel his presence. And when he's on screen, it's on. It's not like the 2014 Godzilla film where he's pretty much an evasive ninja that can disappear at any moment. But when you look at the other Godzilla films, most of the time Godzilla clocks in about 10 minutes of screen time. So this actually fits pretty perfectly. Another thing that is instantly cool about this movie is the design of Godzilla. I mean, holy crap. When you see how ferocious this monster really is, you are reminded that he is the embodiment of an atomic bomb. And I love how right from the get-go, you see how nuclear testing has made this creature into a force of destruction. And even in the 1954 film, they say that Godzilla was baptized in the flames of an H-bomb. Holy crap, that is the craziest title description for a monster I've ever heard. Also, going back to the roar, man, the team nailed down this roar because they got pretty close to the original roar as possible. And personally, I prefer this over the American Godzilla roar because when you listen to both back to back, you can clearly tell which is a roar and which is just loud noise. No, that's not a roar. This is a roar. one last thing that makes this Godzilla so terrifying is actually his size. And you're probably wondering, wait, Adam, how is he scary? He's way smaller than the American Godzilla. And yes, I agree, he is a lot smaller than the Godzilla that Hollywood has given us. But sometimes size doesn't mean anything, because when you look at how big the American Godzilla really is, in comparison to the humans, we're pretty much like ants to these titans, and any human death is basically collateral damage. To put it in perspective, it's almost like as if you're walking on the sidewalk and just so happen to step on a line of ants. I mean, you didn't mean it. It's not like you were seeking out these ants for vengeance. It's just that you are a far superior being to them that doesn't need to acknowledge their existence. That's basically what we get with the American Godzilla. However, when you look at -1 and see how big this Godzilla really is, it makes the death and destruction all the more personal, as he is seeking out to lay waste to everyone and everything. And his atomic breath, woof! What you see in the movie is basically the most destructive / anime atomic breath we've ever seen on the big screen. So overall, in comparison to what Hollywood has given us, Japan wins the monster category by a landslide, with TOHO giving us the most terrifying Godzilla we've ever seen. With that being said, we now move on to the final category that most Godzilla movies tend to struggle with, and that's the human aspect of the story. Now, when it comes to most Godzilla films, they usually struggle with giving us human characters to actually care about. And the characters they usually give us are usually quirky, overdramatic, and sometimes too cutesy. And that's okay, because when you look at the older Godzilla movies, it's hard to take things seriously when you see a guy running around a giant Godzilla suit, and oh my god, I would love to wear one of those suits one day. However, if you're a big budget studio with access to some of the best script writers in America, how is it that some of the human dialogue in these newer Godzilla films are so cringy? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the MonsterVerse movies, but I can only watch them once, because while I love watching Godzilla go up against King Ghidorah or Kong, oh my god, I really can't take the human dialogue.
Sarazawa's got that lizard juiced.
Damn right.
That's Robo Godzilla.
No, that's Mechagodzilla.
Oh my god, the way these lines are written and the way they're delivered, it just makes me feel weird inside. Now granted, I'm sure these very talented actors had a blast making these movies, but let's be honest, they really should have worked more on the script. With that being said, going into Godzilla -1, the story is about Japan recovering from World War II after the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So at this point, the country is at an all-time low by reaching 0, before dropping to -1 once Godzilla shows up. And as the movie starts, you meet Koichi, who was a former kamikaze pilot that made it through the war, but is burdened with guilt. Why? Because his sole duty was to give up his life in the heat of battle in service for his country. And watching this character struggle with post-war stress, that is when I realized that this is a movie about moving forward, overcoming guilt, and recovering from the horrors that one has seen from war. And then on top of that, you throw in Godzilla, who just wreaks havoc. Now at first, this combination of storytelling shouldn't work, and yet somehow the movie is firing off on all cylinders by telling us an incredible story about people rebuilding their lives after war while there's a Godzilla running around. At the same time, the entire cast is bringing in their best performances by making us fall in love with these characters who are trying to start a new life before meeting Godzilla. And I gotta tell you, watching Godzilla terrorize Japan, I was literally scared for these characters, because after spending so much time with them, I didn't want to see any of them die. So when it comes to the human side of the story, Godzilla -1 wins this category hands down by giving us human characters to care about, fall in love with, and feel frightened for once the destruction starts. So overall, I really loved this movie, as it wasn't just a great Godzilla movie, it was a great movie, period. I really feel like TOHO looked at Warner Brothers and was like, oh, you guys made some Godzilla movies? That's cute. Hold my beer. But anyway, if you can get a chance to see this movie, I highly recommend you watch this film, man. Honestly, I don't care how many hoops I have to jump through. I don't care if I have to get it from Japan or from the US. Physical or digital, I have to own this movie. Well, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. That was my overall review for Godzilla -1. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button to see what's up from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye-bye.